Welcome, everyone. It's great to have you joining us today.
Absolutely. Really glad you're here with us.
Yeah, whether you're, prepping for a major strategy meeting or catching up on industry shifts, or maybe you're just eager to understand where technology is taking us, you are in exactly the right place.
For sure.
Today's deep dive is incredibly timely. We are unpacking the reality of what's happening in the global automotive industry right now. It's this radical high-speed transformation,
Right.
and it's basically forcing legacy car makers to completely tear up their traditional rule books. I mean, these are
Hmm.
century-old giants who have spent decades perfecting a very specific way of doing
A
things.
very rigid way of doing things.
Exactly. So our mission today is to figure out how they are adapting to this lightning-fast new standard that the industry is calling China speed.
Yeah. And it's genuinely a masterclass in industrial evolution.
Yeah.
Because while the surface level story is definitely about, electric vehicles and shiny new cars,
Mhm.
what we're really examining is how massive entrenched bureaucracies either reinvent themselves or they just face obsolescence.
Right. Adapt or die.
Precisely. They are up against these tech-native competitors who just operate on a fundamentally different parallel processing wavelength.
Okay, let's unpack this because the central shift here is what I look at as the death of the 5 year car.
Oh, absolutely.
For decades, the reliable standard timeline for a European manufacturer to develop a new vehicle was 48 to 60 months.
Which is a lifetime in tech.
Right, we're talking 4 to 5 solid years from a whiteboard concept to a physical car you could actually buy. But now that timeline has entirely collapsed.
It's compressed to an extent that, honestly, legacy engineers would have laughed at 10 years ago.
They would have said it's impossible.
Exactly. But this is the core of China speed. The new baseline for survival, getting a vehicle from concept to market, it isn't 60 months anymore. It is strictly 18 to 24 months.
Wait a minute, though. I mean, imagine trying to do your job more than twice as fast without losing quality. If you compress a 5 year engineering process into 24 months, aren't you inevitably cutting corners?
That is the exact question legacy automakers asked.
Because you're dealing with massive machines traveling at highway speeds. How do they do this without sacrificing safety or reliability?
It speaks to a fundamental difference in culture. The traditional European engineering culture is highly sequential and perfectionist.
Very step by step.
Right, you design component A, you finalize it, you test it, and only then do you move to component B.
And if component B fails,
You start the whole chain over. It's
yeah.
incredibly siloed.
Mm,
But the Chinese tech culture, which is now driving their auto industry, is entirely agile. It is built on parallel processing.
okay.
They design, test, and iterate on dozens of components simultaneously using digital simulations.
So they aren't skipping the safety tests, they're just
Yep.
running them all at the exact same time instead of waiting in a line.
Exactly. But legacy automakers quickly realized they couldn't just adopt that agile mindset while sitting in their traditional headquarters in Germany or France.
The bureaucracy was just too thick.
Way too thick. So to hit that 18 to 24 month benchmark, they are making a massive structural shift. They're physically moving their primary R&D hubs directly into the Chinese market.
To tap into that hyper-accelerated ecosystem.
Right. They have to decentralize to survive.
Which brings us to a massive move by the Volkswagen Group. They just built out a staggering new R&D hub in Hefei over in China's Anhui province.
Yes, the VCTC.
The Volkswagen Group China Technology Company.
What's fascinating here is the sheer footprint of the VCTC. To give you a sense of the investment, this isn't a satellite office or a little listening post.
No, it's huge.
It's 100,000 square meters. They have over 100 advanced laboratories under one roof. And they can test up to 500 different battery systems annually, pushing them to their absolute limits for safety, performance, and environmental robustness.
It's effectively a self-contained city dedicated to building platforms. And what's wild is that with the VCTC, Volkswagen can now develop, test, and validate an entirely new vehicle platform totally outside of Germany.
Yeah.
That is a historic pivot for a company whose brand identity has been tied to German engineering for generations.
It is. But the metrics completely justify the pivot. By building this end-to-end capability in Hefei, Volkswagen is seeing a 30% reduction in overall development time.
That's massive.
But the real kicker is the cost. They are seeing up to a 50% cost reduction on specific key projects.
Moving a third faster and cutting costs in half. You mentioned parallel processing earlier, but how does physically being in Hefei make that happen in practice?
It comes down to shortening what engineers call decision loops. By having everyone in the same complex, they can do parallel software and hardware validation.
Instead of the old way.
right? Instead of finishing a physical piece of hardware, shipping it to a software team in another country, and waiting for them to find bugs.
Hmm.
Both teams are iterating on digital twins simultaneously.
Okay.
They've brought their suppliers right into the concept phase, too.
So if a battery management system needs a tweak, the software engineer and the hardware designer are quite literally in the same room making the adjustment that afternoon, rather
Exactly.
than sending emails back and forth for 3 weeks.
Precisely. And they're pushing this even further. By mid-2026, they're bringing online what they call the FIT lab.
The Functions Integration Test Laboratory.
Yes, and it's designed to simulate extreme environmental conditions right there on site.
Oh, I see. So instead of shipping a fleet of prototypes to the Arctic Circle to test cold weather battery performance,
And then to Death Valley for heat testing.
right, they just dial up the thermostat in a lab in Hefei?
Exactly. It consolidates the development cycle even further. You never have to leave the building to know how the car reacts to a blizzard.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. We've talked about the massive city-size infrastructure with Volkswagen, but let's look at a specific localized vehicle sprint. Renault and their electric Twingo.
Oh, the Twingo. That project is widely considered a new industrial miracle within the legacy auto world.
An industrial miracle.
Truly. Renault used their Shanghai-based Advanced China Development Center, the ACDC, and using that localized hub, they went from concept drawing to a physical working prototype in just 9 months.
9 months. I want you to just think about your own long-term projects at work. In a lot of corporate environments, 9 months is how long it takes just to get a departmental budget approved and the core team hired.
Right.
And Renault built a working electric car prototype. The total time to market for the Twingo was just 2 years.
And to really contextualize that speed, you have to look at Renault's own recent track record.
Yeah.
The Clio 5 and the Capture took the traditional 48 months.
4 years.
Yep. Then, as the market pressure heated up, they pushed hard and got the Renault 5 and the Scenic down to 36 months.
Okay, getting faster.
But now, with the Twingo via the Shanghai ACDC, they're at 24 months. That is a clean 50% reduction from their standard cycle just a few years ago.
That's incredible. So if Volkswagen is doing it through massive co-location and digital twins, how did Renault pull off this 24-month Twingo timeline?
Renault leaned heavily into a strategy of internalization.
Internalization.
Yes. In traditional auto manufacturing, you outsource a ton of the initial work. You rely on external technical studies, and you enter into multi-round bidding wars with the suppliers for every little component.
Which takes months.
It takes forever. For the Twingo, Renault decided to bypass all of that. They handled the styling and the core component development entirely in-house at the ACDC.
They just cut out the middleman entirely. No waiting on notoriously slow supplier negotiations. Just design it and build it yourself.
Exactly.
But that actually makes me wonder about the assembly. So Renault optimized the human workflow, but you still have the physical bottleneck of bending metal and bolting it together. How are they shrinking the actual physical manufacturing time?
That brings us to a massive production innovation called gigacasting.
Gigacasting.
Yes. It's a leap in physical manufacturing that was originally pioneered by Tesla, and now is being rapidly adopted by Volvo and the major Chinese manufacturers.
How does it work?
Historically, a car's chassis is made of hundreds of individual pieces of stamped metal. You need an army of robots to weld, glue, and rivet them all together on a massive assembly line.
Right.
Gigacasting completely changes the paradigm. It uses presses the size of a house to cast enormous sections of the car's frame as single solid units of molten metal.
It's like going from building a highly complicated Lego Millennium Falcon with thousands of tiny pieces to just buying a solid plastic toy ship. The logistics just evaporate.
That's a great analogy.
And the numbers on this are staggering. Just to cement this for you, the original Tesla Model 3 chassis required 171 different parts and something like 1,600 individual welds.
Yep.
The chassis for the newer Model Y, using gigacasting, it uses exactly 2 pieces.
2 pieces. You completely rewrite the logistics of your supply chain. You aren't tracking, shipping, and storing 171 separate components.
And that physical speed has to tie back into the digital side, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To truly understand China's speed, we have to see how this simplified hardware pairs with the software, specifically software-defined vehicles, or SDVs.
The idea that cars are basically rolling computers now.
Exactly. And the new CEA, the China Electronic Architecture developed by Volkswagen, takes this to a completely different extreme. Decoupling the hardware from the software allows engineers to work simultaneously rather than waiting on each other.
It's that parallel processing again.
Right. They standardize the nervous system of the car so the software teams can build the digital dashboard and the over-the-air update protocols completely independently of the metal being cast.
And they have to do this because the ultimate threat driving this entire global shift isn't just other legacy automakers, it's tech giants. Tech companies are building cars now.
Yes.
And the clearest example of this right now is Xiaomi.
Xiaomi is the perfect embodiment of this new reality. They are a massive consumer tech company, famous for smartphones and smart home appliances.
Right.
They had absolute zero automotive history, no legacy factories, no internal combustion engine patents, yet they went from announcing their automotive intentions to launching their first electric vehicle in the market in just 36 months.
36 months. 3 years from a blank sheet of paper to cars on the road. That has to be a massive wake-up call for legacy automakers. You cannot compete with a 36-month timeline using a 60-month playbook.
You can't.
Mhm.
And they're investing $10 billion through 2031 to keep pushing. But their real competitive advantage is their massive existing smart ecosystem.
The smartphones and appliances.
Exactly. They use that ecosystem to solve software and battery challenges instantly. When you buy a Xiaomi car, the user interface is identical to the phone you already have in your pocket.
It's seamless.
The moment you sit in the driver's seat, your apps, your preferences, your smart home controls, they just instantly map to the dashboard.
It's the ecosystem lock-in. Legacy automakers struggle for years just to make their Bluetooth connect reliably, whereas Xiaomi just applied their consumer electronics playbook directly to a vehicle.
Precisely. And this tech invasion is forcing traditional automakers to scramble and form alliances globally.
It really is a global scramble. Look at another cross-border synergy example with Stellantis right now.
Right.
They are using a vehicle platform that was originally co-developed with Dongfeng in China, but to refine the design and get it to market at the speed required, they brought in Indian engineers from Tata Consulting.
It's incredible. It shows that survival requires pulling the best resources globally to hit that 24-month window.
So what does this all mean? We've talked deeply about Chinese R&D centers, Chinese manufacturing techniques, tech companies. If you're listening to this outside of Asia, why does this matter to the rest of the world?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, these Chinese R&D centers are becoming global export hubs.
They aren't just staying local.
Not at all. Taking Volkswagen's massive Hefei center again, they aren't just designing cars for Chinese consumers anymore. They are actively using that facility to validate products for export into ASEAN countries in the Middle East.
The innovations forged in the crucible of China's speed are bleeding out into the rest of the world. It completely shifts how these legacy companies view themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, Volkswagen's ultimate strategic goal is that they don't just want to be a traditional car manufacturer anymore. They want to master this localized high-speed cycle to become a global automotive tech driver.
It's a necessary evolution because European automakers must match this value-added proposition of smart, tech-integrated vehicles.
Or risk losing out entirely to the tech natives.
Exactly. Synthesizing everything we've looked at today, the automotive industry has essentially merged with the consumer electronics industry.
Wow.
And China's speed, that 18 to 24-month development cycle, is the new global baseline for survival.
It's a profound shift. And it leaves me with a final, somewhat provocative thought for you to mull over as we wrap up today's deep dive. If these car development cycles are shrinking from 5 years down to 2 years, and the vehicles themselves are essentially rolling smartphones, how long until we stop buying cars to own them?
That's a fascinating question.
Right. I mean, how long until we start treating them like tech subscriptions that we just upgrade every 24 months? Imagine just subscribing to a mobility platform that automatically swaps out your smart car for the newest gigacast model every 2 years, the exact same way you upgrade your phone. Given everything we've discussed today, that future feels closer than ever.
It really does.
And on that note, we want to take a moment to explicitly thank you, our listeners. We set out at the beginning of this deep dive to figure out how massive industries evolve under pressure, and we are so incredibly grateful that you choose to spend your time exploring and learning alongside us.
We really are.
We appreciate you for making this deep dive possible. Thank you so much for tuning in. Keep asking questions, keep digging into the things that make you curious, and we will catch you next time.